Okay, we have game two here, and Herald is the key card on the board. Looking at it, without Herald, you can't really do anything. It's the only way you draw things. It is the way you get through your deck and find good cards, right? So University seems like a big player on the board, and it seems worth opening the potion for. You can gain Heralds, Throne Rooms, Mystics, a bunch of 2 cost and 3 cost if you like. The decision here for me was opening Sage over something like Raze or Ratcatcher. Silver is out of the question. Herald doesn't like it, and I don't need it. There's Mystic to get, there's Baron for money. So Sage versus one of the Trashers. I thought about the Sage. It can find you the potion more quickly, which I am going to open with. But on the other hand, it can skip your University, and it can also skip your 2 costs, which are decent in this game, the Ratcatcher and the Raze. So it's a bit of a toss-up whether or not you want that Sage. I eventually picked up the Sage here over one of the Trashers. My opponent goes for the Ratcatcher, I believe. Now, if I was going for Trasher and Potion, I would have picked up the Raze. The reason for the Raze for me is that it trashes more quickly than the Ratcatcher because it stays in your deck all the time. And you really want to get thin fast in this kind of game. University will just evaporate the piles, and Herald would very much appreciate it if you have as little non-action cards in your deck as possible. So the Ratcatcher I think is a bit slower than the Raze, and this is why I opt for the Raze at this point. It's also a good utility card, man. Like if you draw into it, you don't have to trash a copper or estate, you can trash itself and hopefully push your turn forward that way. So I go for the Raze, hoping to get thin fast, and you need to get thin fast in this kind of deck. Otherwise, you're just gonna have, inconsistent turns. You're gonna have some great turns and then some not so great turns, and then wonder why this turn was so good and that turn was so bad. So I'm hoping to get at least 2 Trashers, which are probably I wanted to be 2 Razes. But I stopped for Herald here because I see my opponent go for the Herald and I didn't want to lose the split. Maybe that should have still been a Raze over the Herald, because really I think getting thin here is you're going to be heavily rewarded for it. But I decide to, be scared and not lose the Herald split potentially. So this Sage is doing actually quite a bit of good work. It skipped quite a few cards there and found me a Herald, and the Herald actually made up for that turn where I just had the 1 potion. So managed to go through nearly my whole deck here and gain something, which is a Herald, and pick up a second University. So far the Sage has not skipped my 2 cost, which is excellent. I'm able to trash every time with it. So very happy about that. On this turn here, I was thinking about which is better, to play the Raze or to play the Herald. And I mean, I still can't see any significant difference between the two. I don't think it matters which you play first, to be honest. So I go for the Herald first. It finds me a Sage. Now I have to think about, well, is the Sage better or is the Raze better? I think all that's left in my deck is the Potion, or maybe some Heralds for the Sage to find. So just a bunch of Heralds and the Potion. So I hope to get some cycling in here, and yeah, 3 cards. That's excellent, Sage. Excellent. So the Sage opening is paying off so far. Pick up another Herald here, and the question of the 3rd University, I think it is worth it just for some pile control. University doesn't draw a card, and there's not a lot of draw on this board, so you do risk your draw if you do pick up flat cards like the University, but I think it is worth it to have the 3rd University. There's a whole pile of Throne Rooms you want. There's probably a bunch of Mystics you want, because the Mystic 1 can work well with the Herald. If Herald turns up some non-action card at the top of your deck, the Mystic can accurately guess that thing and clear it off the top of your deck. So that is always good. And also the Mystic is some money, and you want the money. I wanted the money to buy 1 expand so that I can potentially expand Mystics into provinces. So That's the reasoning for, picking up the third university here. You just want a lot of cards in this deck. A lot of cards. So I pick up the last Herald here and I go straight for a pair of Throne Rooms. I need the Throne Rooms to draw a lot. And instead of going for a Sage there, I go for a Rat Catcher to try and thin my deck because, I mean, I said I wanted two Trashers from the beginning and now it's what, turn 10 or something, and I only picked up the Rat Catcher. Now it's obviously late, but hopefully it can still do some work. Now I go for the Rat Catcher there over the Raise because if I find it like I do here, I'm able to draw cards still. Whereas with the Raise, I probably would have trashed a Copper, wanting to preserve the estate for the Baron of course, and I wouldn't be able to draw and go further in my deck. So I see my opponent pick up a Mystic on their university after the Heralds have emptied. So I pick up one here. I will need the money to get to the expand that I want. But I think the Throne Rooms are just far more valuable. You can throne your Heralds, which is what I want to do primarily. And if you have enough draw, you can throne your universities to really put pressure on piles. So I think Throne Room is the more valuable of the two piles there that you want after the Heralds. So this is the issue with the university here. They don't draw me cards, right? So I'm at the end of our shuffle here. Luckily they don't miss, or maybe unluckily, I don't know, but they don't draw me cards. So I'm just stuck here with gaining three things. I mean, that is not so bad, but you would much rather have a turn where you draw through your entire deck and gain three things. So I pick up a Mystic here and another Mystic, and this university is going to pick up another Throne Room here. So I'm well ahead on the Throne Room split, and I think that is very good, very good. Hoping to throw in Heralds, not Rat Catchers like on this turn here. So you'd have noticed by now that with this university, the piles are going to run out very, very quickly. The Heralds have already emptied, and there are 4 Throne Rooms and 4 Mystics left. And if there wasn't this 3-pile rule, we would, go straight for those Mystics and those Throne Rooms. But we have to be cognizant of those piles here. Now here, I was really thinking about just playing this Ratcatcher and hoping to find some other target for this Throne Room, preferably a Herald. But I don't think my deck is good enough to reliably draw an action card. Even a Mystic would be okay, because you could, throw in the Mystic, potentially guess Herald, or guess Mystic or something. You would always get the second Mystic right in any case. But the deck isn't good enough yet. I've only trashed, what, 2 or 3 things really off the Raise. And I really should have picked up a second piece of trashing much earlier in the game. That point was probably when I broke for the first Herald. I probably should have gone for a second Raise at that point, and I'd have been enjoying the benefits of that around here. So I go for the Baron at this point. My opponent picked up a Baron last turn, so we're going for the plus buys. We each have an estate on our deck, so the Baron isn't crazy. It can work straight away. And we're into the end game now, with 2 Throne Rooms left and 3 Mystics. So we'll see what exciting things can happen here. My opponent picks up a Province there, just shielding against the pile out. So here I can trash one of my good cards to this Raise, but I opt to just nick the Copper off. Again, just trying to be thin. There is some time, maybe, if I hold the points even at least. So I pick up a Province alongside my opponent. Now there were times during this endgame where maybe I could have pressed for the win. Like I could have maybe thrown the University here and gone for Herald, and maybe something would have happened that would have allowed me to finish the game. But at no point did I see a clear-cut win for me. And it was made even more difficult for my opponent buying provinces to secure a points advantage. So for example, here I have the opportunity to gain 2 things with this university. But I opt to gain things that don't threaten the piles here because I feel like, well, I don't think I can empty the piles and get enough points at the same time. So just going to play it safe and pick up Raises or Rat Catchers, even a Sage maybe. But I think the Rat Catcher is okay, it's decent. It's roughly equivalent to Sage at this point, to be honest. Except that it stays on your mat and reduces your action density, which isn't the greatest thing. So my opponent has a bit of a weak turn there, just picking up a couple estates. So I have the opportunity to go ahead at this point for the first time in the game, on points that is. So again, here you see many universities into play here, and maybe I could have gone for a win here, but I'm not sure that I could have done that. I wasn't confident in my deck drawing me the necessary cards to do so. So I just pick up the province and a sage here and see what my opponent does. They go for a province, and this is the play that lost me the game here. I didn't think my opponent could do this, but they managed to do so. I play the Baron twice to pick up 2 estates, leaving 3 estates in the pile and just 2 throne rooms. And I really didn't think my opponent could pick up all 3 estates plus 2 throne rooms, but they managed to draw into a bunch of heralds, and it seems to find them the win there. A bit of aggressive ending. I'm not sure what they had, but maybe they had the win in hand. I don't know.